Cockades, roundels, or medallions are national symbols that are worn with pride by the air forces of many nations. They are generally used painted on the wings of airplanes. However, something curious you'll notice on American planes from World War II is that they only carried a single roundel on the wings. Why did they carry only one? It looks a bit asymmetrical and even bothersome to the eye. Do you really think this was done randomly or that it was a decision by a general who had very bad taste? But in fact, the answer to this question is a bit unsettling and shows us how methodical a well-organized armed force can be. Today we will talk about this strange paint configuration, and you will learn a lot about the national symbols of many nations. Get comfortable, I'm Kevin Aguilar, and welcome to Kunst Club. This practice, to call it in some way, was one of the first examples of psychological warfare in the United States since the United States Air Force was founded. He painted the roundels on both wings, but simply, February 26th of 1941. It was ordered that all of these be repainted and that now they should be painted only on the left wing, above and below, on the right wing. The United States Navy resisted this change extremely, having both roundels on both wings by the time the United States entered the war. However, they gave in on February 1, 1943, removing their roundels from the right wing. The reason for all this was simple. Imagine you're a German pilot in World War II and you're flying your preferred German home. It's one of your first missions and you haven't shot anyone down yet, but are you really eager to make your first kill? Suddenly you see a P-47 Thunderbolt below you, allied to D. At full speed, you lower your nose, you aim at it. You have a fraction of a second to shoot, but suddenly the P-47 enters a partial cloud and is about to escape. You have a blurry vision of it and you only have a fraction of a second to react. And the little you see of it is its bright roundel. In most similar cases, the pilots, having only fractions of a second to react, ended up shooting at the roundel and not at the airplane's cockpit, giving the pilot the opportunity to return home and survive. Look at the P-47 with both roundels. This one looks uniform and symmetrical. So in this very case, your attention is fixed on the whole plane, and in this way it is much easier to aim at the center of the plane. You just had to aim at the center of both roundels. Now look at the P-47 with this single roundel. It's really very distracting. And it's not so easy to aim at the cockpit this way because there's only one roundel and you can't use both to aim. Is it hard not to notice the single roundel? This reasoning might seem a bit absurd, but it was tested over and over again, in laboratories with experienced and novice pilots, and also in combat, yielding favorable results for the single roundel. Before Pearl Harbor, the United States used the roundel with a red dot in the center. This design dated back to World War I. However, they thought the dot could be confused with Japanese Empire emblems from a distance. So it was removed, leaving only the clean star that we all know. In theory, this final configuration of a single circle would also greatly reduce friendly fire, which in the early air battles where the United States participated was a fairly present problem. However, for this latter, the Americans did not notice notable changes between 1942 and 1944. They changed the roundel design over and over again, adding different colors and borders, but again they did not notice any notable changes. The roundels seemed to not reduce friendly fire at all. However, military scientists realized that the problem was not the color, as it was indistinguishable at long distances, but the important factor they needed to consider was the shape. So the final change they made was to add the characteristic stripes behind the star, and that this star did not have a circle behind it. This design was made official in early 1944 and has remained unchanged to this day. With this, there was finally a considerable reduction, both in casualties from shots to the cockpit and from friendly fire. So this simple change saved hundreds and hundreds of lives. Making your cockades flashy, asymmetrical has been a tradition that has extended to many nations to this day. Thanks to their success. In World War II, for example, the Polish Air Force went further than the Americans. They made their cockades as if they were a chessboard, and also with very striking colors, alluding to their national flag. They are always in non-vital parts of the plane so that the enemy focuses on them and shoots at these. Although today this practice is somewhat useless, it is maintained as a tradition. These small modifications, although a bit simple, had a lot of impact. And it also shows us how methodical the Americans were to get the most out of every aircraft they put in the air. Small changes like these, which even saved them money on paint, could make the difference. If you like this video, you might be interested in this one about the huge effectiveness of pink camouflage in World War II. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for this video and see you in the next one. Goodbye.